It is the 7th of June, 9 p.m., very nearly on the dot. And my wellness app, which Caroline got me onto, says I should slow down and get ready for bed. But now seemed as good a time as any to turn on my very bright white lights. So we got some good light, and take the time to kind of write. So I was talking with Gil yesterday, and we don't talk often. Like I commented when he called. We hadn't spoken in like 6 weeks, which happens. But anyway, good talk. I had mentioned wanting to try writing a little dark blender, dystopian blender. We never came up with a proper name for it, but it's tentatively, that's not the right document. Let's try this again. That's the right document. It's tentatively dystopian blender because we never came up with a name for it. There's a few at the top of the document, which much like the Smith R City document is this is 60 pages. The premise of which is we started this during the first the first part of the Crazy Years, and if you know what I mean by the Crazy Years, I'm not saying his name. I'm not inviting that into my home. But we started this during sometime halfway into the first part of the Crazy Years. I don't actually know when the first time we started this was in, but no, that's not right. 3. Give me a sec. I'm just going through some notes. Could have sworn we started this earlier than that, but maybe the idea came about in like 2018, 2019, 2020. One of those dark years. When we finally wrote it all down in, I think the earliest note here is 3 years ago. Almost to the day. In fact, 3 years and minus a week. The oldest comment I can find here is. Doesn't mean that's how old the document is, it just means that that's. Oh, there's a version history. Look at that. I can just keep scrolling back until I get to the earliest. Okay, we were editing this like every single day in June of 2022, and then it kind of fell off. We kind of lost interest. We moved on to other things. I cannot find it. It looks like we really did a lot. Like, I'm just looking at his edits, specifically June the 9th of 3 years ago, and all fucking day. Like these are timestamped. I don't want to click on them because I don't want to erase anything that we've done. Some of these are sort of minute by minute. June the 7th, in fact, that was exactly 3 years ago. June the 6th. I didn't mean to start meandering about the date. Now I'm on a tangent. It's nice. I should note I'm not caffeinated right now, so I may lose interest in 20 minutes. June the 1st. May. Okay, it looks like the earliest version of this document was May the 27th, 2022 at 1:30 in the afternoon. Okay. Neat. Anyway, the whole point of this, the setting, is an America where basically all of the worst, most hyperbolic endpoints of our society and planet have come true within about 100 years. So sea levels rose, coastal cities are damaged beyond repair, flooded. The coastlines are miles and miles inland. The fresh water is all poisoned. Mega corporations own what's left. The highways. In fact, the whole idea. I would love to find the text message I sent Gil about this 3 years ago, because I remember part of the idea was there was a meme, and you might have seen it, you might not. I don't know if I can find it on my phone, but I guess I'll look. It's okay. So if you've ever heard of Buc-ee's, it's this weird, very American thing that popped up. It's a truck stop. But it's a truck stop and a gas station and like a mall, all with an adorable mascot, and like good food. It's so uniquely American. I don't think that outside of this country people would get it, because it's so tied in to all of our weird neuroses about personal transportation and exceptionalism and everything needing to be bigger and better and car centric. But yeah, so it's. Oh, here's the picture. Go look at that. I fucking found it. So it's this. I don't know if it was AI generated or if somebody made it or what, but it features this highway that looks like it's, I don't know, 30 lanes wide, and it is a Buc-ee's, as like this cruise ship on the highway. I don't know if this will come through, but I'm gonna turn the brightness up and hope that my laptop camera can see this properly. That's really washed out. In fact, I will turn down the brightness a little, because actually that's a little better. Pack your bags, boys. Time for our Buc-ee land cruise getaway. And I saw this. This particular one I saved later, but I had seen this years earlier, I think. I may be filling that in, but regardless, it was something like this. And I thought, what if that actually happened? What if we had 50-lane highways? What if I-95 was 50 lanes wide, and that was just part of the disease that is late-stage American capitalism? And that's Project Dystopian Blender. We literally threw every nightmare scenario in a blender and turned it on puree. It's one of those industrial blenders that you get at like Jamba Juice or any bougie drink bar in like fucking nearby Parkland. I used to work in one of those. In fact, in Parkland. 99% of the people that came in were suburban soccer moms. That's not even me being facetious. Like, that was the clientele. That's who lived in the area. That's who wanted to drink overpriced, underproduced, squeezed fruits and vegetables. God forbid you make them in your own home for a tenth of the price. I don't know, like, don't get me wrong, the juice was good. we made it, so we got to drink the damn stuff, but we only got like a little bit. Otherwise, you had to buy it. And frankly, a bottle of juice, no matter how good for you, no matter how tasty, that comes in at like $1 an ounce, is not worth it. I'll just go buy a fucking apple. Something avocado toast. Anyway, now that I've completely alienated my audience by being a jerk to suburban soccer moms in Parkland. Actually, no, the customers were fine. It was more like the stereotype of the customers was what I had a problem with. Like, people that had too much money and too little sense bought the kind of food we were selling at the prices we were selling it at. Like $15 for a piece of toast with an avocado spread, which I will tell you was avocados cut open, scooped into a bowl, sprinkle with kosher salt, and like squeeze 1 lemon for every 20 avocados, and mix it and mash it. Boom, there's your avocado toast for $15 a piece of toast. You now know the secret. So get yourself a bag of get yourself a bag of avocados. Let them get just a little bit mushy. Not a lot, just like a day or two overripe. Cut them and put them in a bowl. Get a lemon. Squeeze it. Sprinkle some salt. Mash and mix. There, I just saved you $15 a day for at least a week. Also, bread of your choice. I happen to like rye and sourdough, but to your own flavor. Sorry, where was I? Anyway, so this whole story is kind of predicated on the nightmare scenarios of end stage, late stage capitalism, or however you want to call it. And the setting reflects that. It's 2 parallel stories. One for a young man living in sorry, there's a noise. Give me like a. It's probably nothing. Anyway, 2 parallel stories. One about a young man. I kind of picture him in like his late teens or early 20s. Like he's not very world weary for a couple of reasons. One, because he's young, and 2, because he lives in this well managed, regimented, isolated society. He lives in one of the cities. He lives in New York. Which by the time this story takes place, and it's a little bit vague, but call it the end of the 21st century, the very beginning of the 22nd, the United States has largely ceased to exist, except for, the U.S. does an excellent job at infrastructure. Sort of. Okay, that's very question-begging. The U.S., if we stopped maintaining the highways and the cities and the buildings and everything today, it would probably last a while. Not super long, maybe a century. The last bits would fall into utter disrepair. But for the time being, we had set aside the idea that, no one's taking care of the buildings anymore. There's a whole slave population in the cities, making sure the floors don't collapse. Because megacorps and slavery, welcome to end stage capitalism. I guess that's not technically slavery. They aren't exactly bought and sold, because how do you buy and sell people when there's no buyers and no sellers. You're simply a property of a mega corporation. And we'll get there. I just realized I'm probably going to have to ask Gil if I can publish this video, because this is technically half his. Maybe more than half, come to think of it, but let's set aside let's set aside that. Assuming that if you're watching this, or if this is online publicly, that I did in fact talk to him and get permission to put... I should just call him right now. It's only 9. I'm just texting because... Okay, there we go. I don't know if I'll get a response immediately, but whatever. I'm going to keep going, and again, if this gets buried, it won't matter. So yeah, so the story in the city is predicated on this relatively well-to-do young man who's in school, who's trying to follow in his father's footsteps, because that's the society is weirdly retrogressive insofar as we're back to a society where things are very oppressively male-oriented in some ways, where children follow their parents' professions because there's no organization, there's no way to train in other ways aside from where you come from, because you're, for the most part, even if you're living on a higher floor, even if you have better food, your fate is set in stone. You are, even the people who are well-to-do are owned by the corporation. I forget what his father does. He's some kind of manager. It's buried in the 60-page document somewhere. Okay, Hadrian, born 2076. Oh yeah, it's one of the things that one of the world building things was that he's a tricentennial baby, born on the American tricentennial, because America might be gone, but the people running the city don't want you to know that. They want you to feel patriotic, because their society would not be able to sustain itself without the fiction that there is more out there, that there's more to strive for. People in hopelessness don't survive, so it's a false hope, it's a manufactured hope, but there's more. Let's see. Hadrian was born to a wealthy corporate asset manager. His father, also Hadrian Sr., and a software engineer mother. They live on the 77th floor of a building in Great New York City. And he's nearly finished a doctorate, which will, quote, give him the legal and corporate right to inherit his father's position and title when the man retires or dies. So his schooling is to inherit his father's work, whatever a corporate asset manager does, and that's the world he lives in. That's all he's ever going to be. That's all he's ever going to be allowed to be. And not to jump ahead too much, but he sees his society's slavery. He sees the people lower than him on the totem pole and recognizes what they are and why that's problematic, and it tries to do something about it. He starts quietly trying to figure out why these people are not living in higher floors. They don't appear to be dressed as well as he is. They don't appear to have the right to go up to the top floor, to the rooftop bar that he's allowed to go to at the end of the workday if he so chooses. And long story short, he is found out and put through this kangaroo court, and eventually they're just going to kill him. But he manages, through a lot of other people's effort, to escape the city and get across what was the Hudson River is now the Hudson Strait, because it's wider by a lot. A lot of that widening happened on the New Jersey side, because Great New York has a massive, incredibly high wall around it that keeps the water at bay. That's not sustainable in the slightest. Like, you build a bigger levee, the water's got to go somewhere. Eventually, the water comes back. But he makes it out of the city and across to what was once New Jersey. And from there, he runs into Sam, who's the other protagonist. And her story is also I can't give away where she comes from, but by the time she's 20, nearabouts, around when the story starts, she had been signed on with this pirate crew for 3 years, and what they're road pirates. So remember the basis for this, the originating idea was giant cruise ships of vehicles that roamed the now extremely wide highways. The idea is that the highways are maintained. The people who run the cities, the megacorps that run the cities, still use the highways, so they send essentially repair crews ahead of them to make sure that the roads are clear, and that they can then send ground vehicles across them to go in between the cities. There's still intercity trade, using the old American highway system. And I get the sense that she's working somewhere along I-90, which is, if memory serves, the longest highway in America. It stretches across basically the entire every northernmost state. In fact, I'm just going to look that up real quick just to see if I have that right. Interstate 90. Longest interstate highway in the United States at 4,988.5 kilometers, 3,100 miles for. Anyway, the west side is State Road 519 in Seattle, Washington. Goes through. Or I should say its major junctions in each location along the way. Intersects with I-5 in Seattle, I-15 in Montana, I-25 in Buffalo, I-35 in Minnesota, I-55 in Chicago, I-65 in Gary, Indiana, I-80, I-94, and US 6, also in Indiana. I-75 in Ohio, I-80 in also in Ohio, I-87 in Albany, I-95 in Weston, Massachusetts, and it ends along Route A1 in Boston. So it's damn close to stretching across the entire country. It ends at either ocean. They're very nearly. Seattle's not quite that far over, but close enough. It's close enough for the bean counters. That's why it's in those two locations. I don't know. Part of me just kind of wants to drive it. Like at the same time, I know 95 sort of well. I'm a Florida boy. Well, that's not true. I was not born here, but I was raised here. You can't hear it. That's Maryland. You hear in the voice. I went to actually with the same person I wrote this with. I went to with Gil and his wife Michelle down to Key West. We were there a few years ago. It was just a random thing. Like I had them in town, and we were sitting in the living room one night, and we go, "What are we gonna do tomorrow? You're here for another couple of days. What do you want to do? Do you want to go to Key West?" So we got in the car and drove. It's a 4-hour drive. Like, I'm in South Florida, and that's still 4 hours away by car. And there's no better way to get there. There's a highway the entire way. It's one lane for most of it, but it's there. It's probably one thing in Dark Blender that's completely gone. Like, with the water rising, everything south of Miami is probably gone. But my point is I kind of want to drive the whole thing. I got one of those mile marker 0 stickers. It's on my board behind the. It's over. I don't want to get it down. It's tacked, so I don't want to have to get up and. Anyway, you just take my word for it. And I kind of want to go to the other end of 95. I doubt they have anything as interesting as a mile marker 0. It would have to be whatever the highest mile in Maine is. And I really doubt that I don't think that there's like a tourist trap on the other end of that road. Because Key West is lovely, but it's very touristy. We were there as tourists. I make no bones about that. I just didn't. It's kind of like the time I went to New York. I wasn't walking around with my camera's not within arm's reach or even in the same room. Do I have a prop? Drawers, you're killing me. You are embarrassing me in front of my lack of an audience. I will use my phone. I was not in New York. I want to see all the buildings looking up at everything. We passed Radio City Music Hall, and I didn't know it was there until I glanced at the sign. And it's the one everyone thinks of when they think Radio City Music Hall. It's that sign. And I'm like, oh, that's neat. And I walked past it. I was busy. I was on my way to a bookstore. Was it Strand? No, we did that the day before. It was this hole in the wall in K-Town, and amongst other things, they had a lot of Japanese and Korean language books, but they had a fairly robust used section for English language manga. Not English origin, but translated and sold as used. And I found some out-of-print Mega Tokyo books there. It's not that I was late to that party. It's that I didn't have money when I was in that party. It's like the reason I didn't throw any money at the visual novel Kickstarter back in the day. Not that that ever went anywhere, but we're not prosecuting that. if I had had money, I would have thrown it at it in the hopes that we get the VN one day. I've gotten burned by Kickstarters before, but that's just the risk you take with them. Sometimes they don't work out, and sometimes the projects fall apart because either they didn't realize they needed more money than that, and now the project's out of money and everyone's moved on, or a license ran out, or the artist, in the case of at least one other one that I remember, I won't name names, they just fucked off and moved and disappeared. I don't think I ever got more than a sample from that, but it was whatever. But yeah, so I found these out-of-print Mega Tokyo novels, not novels, essentially tankobon, but they were printed through Dark Horse, and it was like one chapter at a time, but, you know, I love the art, so it was nice getting them, and then I found the rest online on, like, eBay. Much more expensive. This little hole in the wall bookstore, I think I paid, like, basic sticker price for everything, whereas on eBay, for anything like that, they want sticker price plus 200%, and they want you to pay for the shipping. I think the most expensive one I got was like actually 3 times sticker price plus shipping. That's probably why I thought of those numbers. But I get it. Shipping's expensive, and I would say scalper's gonna scalp, but in this case it was just people with out-of-print books. If you want scalpers, talk to the people who, you know, bought Switch 2s and were selling the pre-order paperwork on eBay. And I'm like, you fucker, you didn't want a Switch 2. You wanted someone to give you $300 free when it inevitably stopped being available for sale in the first 5 minutes. You know what I have to say to scalpers? Scalpers know scalping. Pricks. It's the same people that buy 100 boxes of Pokemon cards at the store and then go and sell them online after they've extracted the good cards from them and they've heat sealed them shut. Which, if you didn't know that was a thing, that's a thing. Don't buy scalped cards on eBay. It's never going to work out in your favor. Where was I? Right, I was talking about the highway. This is why I shouldn't be allowed to go on tangents. Oh, Mal's playing Deltarune. Alright. I don't know Deltarune that well. It looks cute. Never got into it. Mal, like, played it for me. We did voices. It was fun. So yeah, so Hadrian eventually makes that out of town. He makes it across the Hudson Strait to New Jersey, and at this point he meets Samsara. Goes by Sam, and she's been working with this pirate crew for the last few years. She works essentially as quartermaster, having worked her way up the chain of command for this essentially pirate ship on the interstate. So very few people use the interstate because it's dangerous. It's a wide open stretch of land where anyone who stands above eye level can see you. Bandits will take a shot, mercenaries will take a shot. The only plus side is that it's maintained by God knows who. In fact, we're gonna get there. But they're relatively maintained, usually by the corporations, sometimes by cults. In fact, that's what the short story I want to write is mostly about. When I started this, I was gonna start figuring that out, but we're getting there. And the crew goes through this particularly well thought through, well executed attack. They roll up Mad Max style in like giant trucks and like little high speed dinghies, for lack of a better word, to pull up on this truck that they're there to rob. And as they find out, they thought that it was rare metals, high power magnets, electronics. They thought it's stuff that they could either ransom back to the people they stole it from, or another city would buy it. Because the cities are not above trading with pirates. They don't care where their stuff comes from, unless it's from this company that owns Great New York, in which case they picked the absolute worst people to rob. Amongst other things, she ends up being the only survivor of this crew after one of the people who she's working with got a little too handsy with, or a little too greedy for their share, and sold them out to the corporation, resulting in all of their deaths, or very nearly all of their deaths. And from there, she's on her way to Great New York, intending on, at the very least, figuring out for what her people were slaughtered, for whom the bell tolls. Unfortunately, my dear, it tolled for thee. At the very least, to find out why her people were slaughtered, and if she's lucky, maybe cause some trouble and get some revenge along the way. I'm not sure exactly at what point they meet, because like the first of a trilogy of books, it was sort of meant to be like half and half, his story, her story. They would jump back and forth, and then they'd meet and they'd go on some combo adventure, and then finally, we're gonna go deal with the mega corporation. It turns out that she has an in. She doesn't know she has an in before she gets to Great New York, but she has an in. Moving right along. So, I had this idea within this universe. I'm not sure exactly when it would take place, but probably sometime after that story. Like, the world is not going to go back to normal regardless of what they do. So I had this idea, and I'm sort of branching it out of the idea of, and I'm pretty sure I've got this right, a canticle for Leibowitz. The whole, the conceit of that story, or at least the first third of it, nearabouts, is we're following this monk, and it's not clear what his task is immediately, because he's copying down sacred text, and it turns out that sacred text is a grocery list from a nuclear scientist. It's basically, my wife called, I need to get eggs, milk, butter, whatever from the grocer on my way home from working in the nuclear test lab, and his order maintains documents from that lab and from others like it. Their whole monastic mission is to maintain the words of the old world. They've suffered some nuclear war along the way, and that's kind of the concept I'm branching off of. This guy, who I haven't even named yet, he shows up clearing corpses from I-90 in Michigan, wearing a faded, tattered Michigan Department of Transportation reflective orange vest. It has holes. Some of them are bullet holes, and he's inherited this through his family throughout the years, because that's his job. Like, he's part of this order of essentially MDOT. I don't even know if there's an MDOT. I actually assume there is. Okay, there is in fact an MDOT. Just want to make sure. There's a dot everywhere, but I just want to make sure that MDOT was its name and I wasn't just making that up. But his grandfather's grandfather was a worker or an engineer or some such for the Michigan Department of Transportation. And when the world went to shit, it very quickly became, okay, my son now does this job, and his son's going to, and so on and so on. And now, was it? Did I say 4 generations? Yeah, so he would be the 5th generation member of this order that went from being state employees to being essentially a cult of people whose role it is to clear the highway of debris. He clears corpses, he clears broken vehicles, any detritus that lands on it from a storm. He keeps the roads clean. He and his menagerie of other MDOT faithful. And he's standing there. You know, he's pulled his last corpse off the road just as one of the giant land ships rolls by, and he's like poking at a hole in his vestments, his orange reflective vest, where his grandfather's brother, so a great uncle I think, had been shot once from one of the land ships passing by. Just someone shooting for the hell of it. Oh, there's something shiny over there. Let me. You know, and he's kind of like, I should get down. I should make sure that I'm not gonna be a story for my nephew. And that's his whole life. Like, that's, I don't know where I'm going with the story, but that's what his life is going to be. He's never gonna be a hero. He's never gonna be the star. It's in some grand drama. He's gonna do his duty and go home to his wife. But I get this sense, like, at one point he's called to one of the cities, presumably one along I-90, and he doesn't know it yet, because only the Grandmasters of his order know exactly why they're still mandated, and they still have the authority to do this. In fact, let me. So he doesn't know it, but he's going to be, because he's getting on in age, like he's already in his mid-40s, he's going to be inducted into sort of the Order of Grandmasters. There's the one, whoever's eldest is Grandmaster, and then there's something of a council that are empowered to delegate work. So he was delegated to basic corpse collection for the day by the master above him and the Grandmaster above him. And he's finally been summoned by the masters to go to the city, again, presumably one along I-90, to meet with the leaders in the city and be given information so that he can be inducted into the Council of Masters and possibly one day become the Grandmaster. And they basically tell him, yeah, we own you. Your whole order works for our benefit, and you must keep this information quiet, because the less faithful, or they'll use some verbiage to that degree, can't be trusted with the truth because it would drive them mad. And he's pretty upset at the whole idea that his life is controlled by people he's never met. he could stand it when it was his father and his grandfather and the masters and the grandmaster, but that his order is working at the behest of distant warlords, who clearly worship other gods, is something of an affront to him. He's a very religious man. I wouldn't call him a zealot because that has some negative connotations to it, but he definitely is not pleased that it turns out that the real gods are just people who threaten to murder you when you get uppity. It's kind of an allegory for late states capitalism. There's a lot of that here because it's dystopian blender side story. Most of the story will be him, essentially telling the representatives from the city, yeah, I will totally maintain the oaths of my office, and your secrets are safe with me, and I'll delegate my work appropriately, and blah blah blah, keep the roads clean. And the end will have kind of this book ending, where at the beginning he sees the land ship go by, and he pokes at the holes where he knows his uncle was shot, in his vest, and he pokes at them again because now that he's at the level his uncle was when he was murdered, now he could be on the receiving end of that if they think that he's been disloyal. The more I talk about it, the more it's kind of a downer. Which, to be fair, it's the whole concept is kind of a downer. Sorry, message. But yeah, that's kind of it. Like, that's where this story is going. I'll probably keep it relatively short. Excuse me. But I can't say that it has to be a long story. I figure out ideally maybe 5-10 pages, a couple thousand words. No, I think I'm in a pretty good place. Kind of, I know where it's going. Alright. I know where this is going now. I'll probably do the actual prosy bits tomorrow when I'm a little more kind of been a long day. It was nice just to kind of organize my thoughts and get it out. But I'll get some sleep. What's the... Get some sleep, drink a energy drink. And just really crap it out in the morning. That's kind of how I do all these stories. I'm just curious what else I've got on hand that I've done lately. Tired. I finally wrote down 2 whole paragraphs about the Artemis and Apollo story I want to write. That's not even ready for the light of day yet. It's 2 paragraphs, and it's little more than tropes at the moment. But I'm gonna name this. So I know to come back to it later. That's for those. So I did publish that fic. In fact, I got a very nice comment on that story the other day, and it actually came at just the best time because I had just gotten done with like a 15-hour day, and it was just nice to see someone appreciate Lieutenant's Journal quite that much on that day. It was literally earlier this week. It was the 3rd. That was nice. But what else have I been working on lately? Okay, yeah, so this short, that one I did publish it. It's Untrusted to Lead. I had done a reading and commentary on it May 19th. So go watch that, I guess. It was fine. I don't know where I want to go with it. It's basically just I think the basis for it was that Voltaire song, Feathery Wings. That's basically the powers that be have put this angel of death solely on suicides, and that's kind of the place I started this at. Was this guy is just there, like he happens to like artistic people and would be not upset but made uneasy if this artist whose work they've taken a shine to were to kill themselves. It's not even all that long. It's like 2 pages. It's only 12. It's actually 1,200 words right on the dot, which is weird, but okay. I kind of cropped it out in an afternoon because it just came to me. Home Companion's kind of the same way, and I really should do. Well, it's another 1,220 words. Home Companion's another that just sort of came to me. There was an ad for the one more stupid fucking AI company promising more than they could possibly deliver. Bring your old photos to life. So get like grandma and grandpa's old black and white shriveled up photos and scan them, and our AI will, make them turn and smile, and it'll be kind of like those pictures from Harry Potter that move and grin at you. I was incredibly creeped out by the concept. I, like probably a lot of others, would sell both of my arms and probably my soul to get one more word from a deceased loved one. But what these companies are selling is just fucking creepy. So I took that and ran with it. The protagonist of this story, who, again, I never name. I don't think I named them anyway. Yeah, it's pretty much it's from their perspective. So the narrator will say "I" an awful lot, and he goes about his day, not mentioning how dark his house is and how empty his house is. But the house is also busy. He can hear his mother telling him to get up. He can hear his father in the kitchen singing some ditty he barely remembers. His sister chats with him over breakfast. What are you doing today? And when he goes to leave the house, all the lights come back on and the house is empty. And he gets texts from his sister, and he gets like memes from her during the day, and he gets home and his parents are making dinner, his mom is doing the vegetables, his dad is working the grill, and he sits down to a dark, empty table and has a meal, and comments that the only reason he has this big house and this big fancy dark wood table is because of the insurance payout. And then he has a talk with his therapist, who basically goes, we were getting through this, and it's okay that you wanted to try their Home Companion system, but these matrices are causing you to backslide. And it just sort of goes from there. In fact, now that I'm going into it, I might actually do a reading like I did with Untrusted to Lead. I've kind of already done the commentary, I guess, so maybe I'll just do a straight reading and do that as another video. Yeah, I'll just do that right now. So that was it for Dystopian Blender. I'm still working on Highway Keepers. This one didn't come to me all in one go, though, so I feel like it'll probably be a little longer than these other stories that came to me like that. But yeah, we'll see where it goes. Good night.